Fourth wave feminism explained, hopefully for the last time. Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and while I have already made 2 videos defining fourth wave feminism, I feel I need to make another because people still frequently ask me what the difference between fourth wave feminism and third wave feminism is. And some people don't even really understand what third wave feminism is yet. So I'll say it again. Simply put, fourth wave feminism is what happened when feminist true believers and feminist organizations finally figured out how to use the internet, which was around 2008, according to Wikipedia. They have an entry on it. It's called Fourth Wave Feminism. You can look it up for yourself. It's a real thing, even on Wikipedia. I did not coin the phrase fourth wave feminism, as certain feminists themselves were toying with it for a while, but they generally stopped saying that and they usually just call themselves intersectional feminists. But any famous feminist right now is almost unanimously a fourth wave feminist. Anita Sarkeesian, Zoe Quinn, Brianna Wu, everybody from Gamergate, and then, Jessica Valenti, Clementine Ford, Lindy West, Kat Black, all of the ones that you've probably heard of. They're all fourth wave feminists. So I would say that I have maybe been the first feminist critic to really refer to fourth wave feminism in my general criticisms of feminism, but I'm not sure about that, and I don't particularly care because that would be pretentious. I don't want to be like, I started it. So, whatever. I just hope that more people start to use the term fourth wave feminism because fourth wave feminism is particularly heinous, dishonest, and power hungry because very few people took third wave feminism seriously, and even during its peak in the 1990s, they were relatively easy to ignore, and most people didn't really know much about it besides, yeah, girl power. And third wave feminism basically died down during the 2000s. Gender studies departments being founded in the late 80s basically marked the beginning of third wave feminism. And since they never were shut down, a lot of people think third wave feminism never really ended. However, if one were to say that third wave feminism never really ended, one could say that second wave feminism never really ended because patriarchy theory was coined during the second wave, which is the ridiculous conspiracy theory that all men collude with all other men, either consciously or subconsciously, to oppress all women. Obviously, the ending of second wave feminism didn't mark the end of patriarchy theory. It came back with a vengeance in each wave. There were plenty of other wacky theories that don't hold up to either psychological or philosophical scrutiny that were coined first in the second wave, like the male gaze theory, which is the theory that men like to gaze at women, and because of that, they like to put women into art, and then it increases the male gaze and it makes men sexually objectify women even more because it's all set up that way because patriarchy. It's a little wacky. But the second wave did briefly die out until some of the radical true believers ended up getting gender studies departments to be legitimized by academia and allow it to be an actual subject matter that one can get a degree in, which it still is today. And the people who end up with degrees in gender studies are and have always been generally the least intelligent people with degrees that exist. And they only have 3 options as to what to do with their gender studies degree once they get it. First, they can teach gender studies if they are so good at it. Second, they can write for feminist publications and blogs. Third, they can enter the workforce and call everybody sexist when they undoubtedly aren't actually good at their job because they were a gender studies major, so they're not going to be good in the workforce. Never major in gender studies. The only reason to even take a course in it is to plant seeds of doubt in your classmates by relentlessly arguing with your professor. But expect to get a bad grade if you do that. But let's back up to the differences between third wave feminism and fourth wave feminism, keeping in mind that true believer feminists are not very intelligent people. You should be warned that they are pretty good at various forms of dishonesty and emotional manipulation. They are good at creating double standards and justifying them with strange rationales, like how it is okay to call men a dick as an insult, but never okay to call a woman a cunt. If you tell them that men are the overwhelming victims of violent crime, they'll say that it doesn't matter because those crimes were usually committed by men, when you were talking about the gender of the victims, not the perpetrators. So, of course, anybody who is willing to base their entire worldview around claiming that everything wrong with the world is the fault of all men collectively conspiring to mess up reality and fuck over all women, anybody who thinks that is not very intelligent. While the internet did exist during the 90s when third wave feminism was still growing in academia and was actually kind of flourishing culturally, there were very few feminists during the 90s who were smart enough to actually understand how to use the internet. There were a few, but they were generally much cooler women than fourth wave feminists because you had to be intelligent to use the internet in the 90s, and also because there were several reasons why somebody might actually want to be a feminist that were actually relevant to the times in the 90s. For example, the religious right was still very powerful in the 90s, and they were always trying to stop abortion by any means necessary. So women rallied behind that cause under the feminist banner. Women were big on teaching self-defense classes in the 90s, and feminist organizations would organize those classes. Girl bands were also pretty big, and they usually called themselves Riot Girls, and they passed around zines, which were little photocopied pamphlets that are still popular in some punk rock scenes. But as I said before, all of this mostly died out during the Bush years, because it stopped being cool to be a feminist. I think truthfully, from my observation, everybody got tired of the oppression Olympics, and that's all feminists ever really talked about. Women knew that blaming all of the problems on men wasn't going to make them happy. And 9/11 happened and war broke out, so people had better things to worry about than smashing the patriarchy. Even though now a lot of women are like, well, the war only happened because of patriarchy. Except for they also defend Islam and stuff, so kind of silly logic, but these are not logical people. My perception is that fourth wave feminism started brewing while being ignored mostly for a long time. At least for about 4 years probably. If it started in 2008, it really picked up in 2012. The gender studies professors and their minions began blogging once they figured out how a computer works, and some of them developed a cult following, but I don't think anybody took them seriously for a long while. Feminists have always been primarily lesbians in terms of the true believers, and lesbians are usually fairly easy to ignore because they are a particularly humorless population that isn't good at making friends. Unless lesbians are trying to protest you or take over your organization, both things that they love to do, it's easy to just laugh at them because nobody's laughing with them because they never laugh. Not all lesbians, of course, some are cool, but look up lesbian comedians and see how few you find. We all know which lesbians I'm talking about. Eventually, around 2012, something happened, and I don't think it was a coincidence. The blog Everyday Feminism was born that year, for example, and it was also the year that Obama was re-elected, and the Occupy movement was pittering out. Some people even say that George Soros himself paid identity politic-driven assholes who were probably feminists to disrupt the Occupy movement, which was supposed to be about uniting the masses against big corruption and government involvement in capitalism, as opposed to whining about which groups in the masses were oppressed the most. And, of course, if it's intersectional feminists, they're going to come and it's going to be like women and black people and blah, 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 blah. And then the movement falls apart, and that's kind of what happened. So maybe that did happen. Maybe George Soros did pay them, but I don't know. I have not checked out the conspiracy as it relates to the Occupy movement, so I don't know, but you should look into it. Regardless of whether this was an organized conspiracy or not, we do know some things for sure. Feminist blogs began to become really widely read and I believe promoted in the year 2012, and especially by 2013. Blogs like Everyday Feminism, Jezebel, Black Girl Dangerous, and Feministing began popping up everywhere on my timeline on Facebook. Also, everybody was constantly talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, which was a viral hashtag that was promoted all over the internet, which was started by feminists. I think that we should call them fourth wave feminists. Everybody was talking about rape culture and stuff like that around the time, and Gamergate really kicked into gear, certainly by 2014, but I think it really started in 2013, can't quite remember. All of this stuff was very directly related to the internet, and I say that I think it was organized because of how much these feminists were on the offense. It's not just like they were quietly existing as feminists, they poked various hornets' nests in male culture, like video games, comedy, comic books, and basically everything else you can think of. And they were getting paid to do it. It was aggressive and vindictive. They were attacking men and then playing victim. I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that mainstream feminists co-opted the term intersectional feminism, which was coined initially by black women who felt black women were being left out of the feminist movement during the second wave. Intersectionality theory was first coined in the third wave by Patricia Hill Collins, and it was an all-encompassing theory of oppression, which basically, in my opinion, was designed to claim that feminism was the one true way to solve all of the world's problems, if they didn't already think that, by saying first that the most oppressed people have a deeper understanding of reality, and then also that you can make sweeping generalizations to easily calculate how oppressed any individual is based on their different demographics as a person, and that women always have it worse than men in every instance. So basically, intersectionality theory means that you always have to listen to women because they know what's best for you. And by women, they do mean feminists, of course. By the end of 2015, it was clear that fourth wave feminism was everywhere, even though most fourth wave feminists didn't even know that they were fourth wave feminists, and they were mostly just white women who called themselves intersectional feminists, even if they've never done a single thing for anybody besides white women outside of attacking people on the internet. One of the key tenets of fourth wave feminism is call-out culture. Getting mad at people online is seen as a way of achieving justice for the fourth wavers, and most people submitted in defeat because they realized that challenging it could lead to career ruin, and nobody was going to feel bad for you if you got your career ruined by fourth wave feminists. The media wouldn't report on it if it happened to you, and the feminists would go on to drink from their male tears mugs. Fortunately, a resistance happened mainly powered by YouTube, and eventually that anti-feminist resistance won. We don't know for certain that Hillary Clinton paid blogs to support her, but we do know that feminists spent the entire election smearing anybody who didn't support her and saying they were misogynists. Even supporters of Bernie Sanders they called misogynists, and those guys were more liberal anyway. Look at this panel from a comic from Everyday Feminism, where they depict a Sanders rally as a bunch of people booing and saying, "All lives matter, go home thugs, and even get off the stage monkeys." That absolutely never happened at a Sanders rally. It's bullshit. Feminist blogs were actively smearing Sanders, and they didn't mention Hillary Clinton in that specific blog. It was supposed to be about Trump. We also know that Hillary Clinton identifies as a feminist and said so numerous times publicly. Also, that feminist blogs really exploded onto the scene as soon as Obama was secure in his second term, and that eventually all media was biased in favor of both Hillary Clinton and feminism. So, well, maybe this was a coincidence, and maybe I'm just a wacky conspiracy theorist for thinking it is all related and that it was done deliberately. We also know that fourth wave feminists have vehemently defended Islam as much as they possibly can, even though Islam as a doctrine is about as misogynistic as it gets, and Hillary Clinton takes lots of money from Islamic governments like Saudi Arabia. All of this just seems fishy to me. Too fishy to ignore, and that's one of the reasons I started my channel. Also, keep one other thing in mind. When you look at data around men and boys falling behind in every level of education, male suicide being about 5 times as much as female suicide, men receiving drastically longer sentences for the same crimes as women, the erosion of due process for rape allegations against men, male treatment in situations of domestic abuse where they can get arrested even if they were the ones being attacked, and several other issues that affect men. When you look at the long list of pressing male issues and find out how much they are being systematically ignored by media, and you know that Hillary Clinton has a stranglehold on media during this election, maybe she doesn't anymore, well, it looks even more strange to me. Fourth wave feminism, from my observation, seems like an arbitrarily invented concoction with political motivations. It was clearly, basically, having of no purpose, which is why they invented issues like manspreading and mansplaining, trigger warnings, safe spaces, and appeals for double standards of treatment on the internet for women who can't handle Twitter arguments or whatever. It seems clearly stimulated with lots of money, as there are people who make their entire careers by being feminists, at least in terms of the fourth wave. So now that Clinton has been defeated, we'll see how long it takes for the movement to die out. And while I'll probably never have the satisfaction of proof that Clinton Incorporated paid off blogs like I suspect that they did, we do know that she hired people to troll the internet and that she paid celebrities like Katy Perry to endorse her. So it isn't a stretch to think that she gave some of that money to blogs. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Drop me a comment and stay tuned.